Wide.
Well, a good day, everybody, and welcome to the program. Brad Miller with you. It's Countywide, and today we welcome into our studio a guest his voice will be very familiar to our listeners, our radio listeners. Charlie Cook is an assistant chief with the Central Yavapai Fire District based in Prescott Valley. And good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Brad. Thanks for inviting me over.
Thank you for coming and joining us on this good-looking Tuesday. We want to talk about something today. An issue came up, and I can't remember, Charlie. I want to say somewhere in the Midwest, Tennessee, back about that way, about a year and a half or so ago. Where a house burned down, and the story, and I don't know how much was fact and how much was fiction, but it sure made a lot of headlines and got some folks kind of excited for a time that a fire department actually went by, and since this guy didn't pay an annual fee, the house was allowed to burn, and they stood by and kind of, I think, protected some of the neighboring properties and that kind of thing. And people got just kind of outraged. Well, then a lot of it kind of came out about how things work that way, and to a certain extent, we have similar situations in Arizona. And Charlie's going to help us talk about that, is going to talk with us a little bit about that today, that folks who maybe think they live within and the key, I think the message we want to get out today is sometimes, Charlie, folks may think they live within a protected fire district, and they may not. And I think we're trying to help folks here today. Is that kind of what we're after?
That's absolutely true. And you know, one of the ways real estate people really should be tuned into this, of knowing what area people are in as far as school districts, fire protection, stuff like that. And they ought to be made aware of that early on. But people are also able to get on the county GIS and see, it'll say who your school district is, who your fire protection is. And one of the things that we really need to make clear to the people in Arizona is that there are no county fire departments. You know, you either have a municipality like the City of Phoenix, City of Prescott, Town of Cottonwood,
right.
Or you have a fire district, and then there are a few volunteer fire departments around. So the main source of fire protection in the state of Arizona either is a municipality or a fire district. Just in Yavapai County alone, there are probably close to 18 fire districts just in Yavapai County. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today, or the key thing is if you're not within one of those fire districts, you have no fire protection, and somebody most likely nobody's going to respond if you have a call there for a fire.
And I would say it's possible, and you would probably say it's fact. We've seen this happen where folks move into a home, live in a home, maybe even for some time, and don't understand that they don't have fire protection. Has that come up?
It's absolutely right. And you know what's interesting too is even some of the insurance companies do not know some of the areas that are unprotected. I'm having a lot more of them come to me now asking, do we have fire protection in this area? And a lot of the people, once they find out they do not have fire protection, then nobody wants to insure them.
Well, sure.
And if they do, then the price is so phenomenal that it's like, okay, are we going to risk not having fire protection, or are we going to try to somehow get a contract or annex into a fire district?
It seems so obvious. It almost seems hard to believe that you might buy a home, move into it, and these issues would never come up. Is it possible that this could be a mistake and people don't understand, or somewhere along the line, it just seems like somewhere along the line in this process, say you buy a home in one of these areas that are not covered, like you're going to show us on a map here in a moment, or is it just, well, we're kind of rolling the dice a little bit and hoping that we don't have a fire and hope for the best?
I think it's both of these things. A lot of people, as innocent as it is, they move in thinking that they have fire protection. The real estate people think they have fire protection. They don't do their homework. They don't check. And so they're actually honestly they're not having fire protection and not knowing it. But we do have people too who play the game. We've had people who have actually wanted to get a contract with us, and they'll go ahead and get a contract with us. As soon as it's signed, they get their insurance and they cancel the contract. Because before that, they couldn't get the insurance. So one of the things we do now is if we do sign a contract with someone, we do require them to put us down on that. So if it's canceled, then we're notified.
You know about it. Sure.
So it's a little game they play.
You mentioned realtors, and they should be on the ball on this thing. I mean, the one word all realtors have to know is disclosure. And it seems like that could become a problem if, in fact, they do know. But it sounds like you're saying maybe some aren't as educated as they ought to be. And it is a mistake or a misunderstanding.
I think it's just a misunderstanding. One of the things is in the Prescott Valley area. We have some great real estate people over there. And matter of fact, I believe I'm speaking to their group in a couple of weeks. And I probably on a regular basis have been called to talk to their group. And that's one of the things that comes up. What areas do not have fire protection? How can we know this? And so I kind of go through with them, it goes back to research. Look on your county GIS, pull up the piece of property and see what it says on there, because if there's no fire protection, that area is going to be blank when it says fire protection.
Now, I'm assuming, let's take your district, for example, obviously, and when the district was formed, when was Central Yavapai formed? Do you know?
In 1965. It's been around 65. About 45 years.
Okay, now nobody needs, who has lived in our area for more than a day or two, to understand that Prescott Valley's had tremendous growth. And obviously, from the time the district was formed, there's been a lot of growth of areas that were outside that initial district. Is that how these pockets develop, is through over time and growth?
But what's really interesting with you bringing that up is that's the very reason what we're talking about today is why Central Yavapai was formed in 1965. The city of Prescott was probably approximately 25 square miles. And at that time, in 1965 and earlier, if there was a fire in the county area outside of it, they did not respond.
Sure.
And so the Central Yavapai Fire District was formed to take care of those outlying areas. Today, we're one of the largest fire districts in the state of Arizona. We have about 165 square miles that we cover, and it pretty much is everything that surrounds the city of Prescott, and then includes the towns of Prescott Valley and Dewey-Humboldt.
So your district was formed to address the very issue that now your district is facing, and many others are as well. It seems like municipal, not districts, but agencies, Cottonwood, for example, departments, are they, is the fire district one and the same as the city boundaries, the city limits?
No.
And I know you're speaking for a different district, or a different department.
If the town, like City of Prescott, has their own fire department, then they are out of the fire district. But I'll give you an example. The town of Prescott Valley does not have their own fire department. We are their fire department, just like the town of Dewey-Humboldt. And so we are their fire department, and all their fire protection emergency services comes from us.
No, I understand, but I'm saying if like the city of Prescott, for example, does their fire protection service follow exactly the city limits that are understood by everybody else?
No, that's probably one of the greatest things that we have in our community is the automatic aid agreements.
Okay.
We don't care what color the trucks are. We don't care what color the shirts are. Whoever the closest engine is responds. We have automatic aid with the city of Prescott. We have automatic aid with the town of Chino Valley, or the Chino Valley Fire District, and also Groom Creek. And so we automatically go. We do have mutual aid with Walker. We have mutual aid with Mayor. That means you have to call us, but we will come.
Right. And we hear it all the time. Our listeners to our radio stations in the news will hear it very, very often, especially with your agencies. There's a lot of that where, along with Prescott, you'll respond to a certain thing.
And we have, this is, like I said, is very unusual because across the country, the agencies, as a rule, do not get along like that.
Yeah.
We get along tremendously well, and also even with the Forest Service. We have Forest Service vehicles in our fire stations. We respond with them, they respond with us. So,
and we've done, I think it's been a while, but we've even done programs that focused on the mutual aid.
Right.
Because you'll know better than any of us, 20 years or so ago, and there's still friendly competition, we like to think, amongst the different kinds of agencies. But even 20 years ago or so, that was very different.
It was. Even with the police departments, the relationship that we have with the town, city police departments, the DPS, is so much better today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's us against them, but we all have to get along. We're all doing the same thing. We're all at the same place. So it's really great to see the relationship that we do have.
And like you said, when 911 gets dialed, the caller does not care who is coming, as long as someone is. I want to tell our radio listeners when we come back, Charlie's brought a map today, and we are going to make some references to it, and that'll be a little tricky on the radio to follow along. But we will, we'll explain as best we can how this kind of works. It is a problem for folks who some may think that they have fire protection, and indeed they do not. We're talking about that. It's our topic on Countywide. Charlie Cook, our guest, Brad Miller, and we'll be back right after this.
Since 1993, Rice Accounting has been assisting